UATV English is online and in the air. My name is Henry Keane. This is Who's Next? We're asking a question, who's next to be invaded by Russia? That's right. We think of Lithuania. Why, you can ask Lithuania.
Russia moves to extend its maritime borders, angering Baltic Sea nations. Russia may attack Baltic nations after Ukraine. Lithuanian border towns grapple with threat of Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, first of all, such headlines have been hovering around in the media constantly since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and Moscow's main ally in the region, self-proclaimed president of Belarus, Oleksandr Lukashenko, is not far behind. In the spring, his army moved an additional battalion of troops with tanks and armored vehicles right to the border with, that's right, Lithuania. So, moreover, Minsk has already stated that a number of drone strikes on the country were being prepared from the territory of Lithuania. This, of course, did not go unnoticed in Lithuania.
We hear things like this almost every week, and I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening now. Gabrielius Landsbergis, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, in an interview with Times.
Moreover, Russia and Belarus have been openly practicing attack scenarios on their Eastern European neighbors, including Lithuania, for like 15 years. We are talking about the joint military exercise West, shall I say Wild West, that Moscow and Minsk have been conducting since 2009. The Lithuanian armed forces are not too big, consist of 37,000 of active personnel and more than 100,000 of total reserve, which needs some time to gather themselves into combat units. As for now, Lithuania does not have tanks. It actually acquired 54 Leopard 2, but it is unknown when they will actually be sent in. Lithuania has 120 infantry fighting vehicles, almost 1,000 APCs and armored patrol cars, 109 artillery units, support aviation. Russia, in turn, is ready to deploy in the Kaliningrad region 11th Army Corps. Well, part of it was destroyed in the Russian-Ukrainian war, but it could be replaced by new recruits and equipment from the stocks. The corps consists of 12,000 soldiers and officers, about 100 T-72 tanks, several hundred BTR combat vehicles, and rocket artillery. How many more Russian troops are there located in the Kaliningrad region is unknown. The armed forces of Belarus consist of 63,000 active personnel and a third of a million in reserve. It has on surface 5,000 tanks, nearly 200 AFVs, nearly 1,200 Soviet APCs and armored personnel carriers, and nearly 600 artillery units, including MLRS, 260 fighting ground attacks training aircraft, and 80 attack helicopters. Well, Lithuania is obviously kinda losing position when it comes to the number of people and military equipment. So how would a potential Russian-Belarusian attack could develop? The practices of hybrid warfare that Russia has been into for the past years will be first in line. Suppression of communications by electronic warfare means activity of saboteurs and pro-Russian citizens in Lithuania, and there are enough. Based on the Kremlin strategy in its war against Ukraine, the Russians will count on quickly capturing the country's largest cities, moving in columns along the highways. The Belarusian town of Ashmiany is only 22 kilometers from the Lithuanian border. In addition to the highway, there is a railroad that leads right to the capital, Vilnius. Also, another convoy will go on the highway to Vilnius and from the southern direction from Voronovo. The Kaliningrad group of troops will also join the attempt to encircle the Lithuanian capital, which will try to occupy Mariupol, and from there split up and march simultaneously onto Kaunas and Vilnius. At the same time, the Russians could start attacking the Suwalki Gap from Kaliningrad and Belarus, simultaneously trying to cut off the Baltic states entire from Poland by land. Lithuania, in this case, has an option: choose 2 or 3 fortified areas to hold a multi-echelon defense and wait for support from the NATO allies. Of course, seeing the preparation of Russia and Belarus for the direct conflict, let's call it a war, the Lithuanian political and military leadership did not sit idly by. After all, help from NATO allies would not arrive in time in the first hours after the offensive began. In the conditions of a two-front war, it is especially difficult to defend oneself. The country is raising defense spending around 3% of GDP and has already ordered modern weaponry from Western allies, HIMARS, Leopard 2 tanks, Caesar self-propelled howitzers. Besides Bundeswehr, soldiers have already started arriving in Lithuania in the next few years. Germany will deploy 5,000 soldiers with tanks there. Well, in order to react promptly to any threat possible from Russia, I talk. However, will this be enough for Lithuania to hold out until NATO's forces' full response to the aggressor? We don't know. How will Russia act in the event of the capture of Lithuania, and which country will be next on the aggressor's path? Find out next week with me, Henry Keane, on UATV English in our new program, Who's Next? See you soon.